Hello everyone and welcome to the second day of the PCS2 Asia Grand Finals. I'm Toby and I hope you will be enjoying this analysis content, whether you're watching on Twitch or on YouTube. It's always good fun to do these videos, and it's always a pleasure to have so many of you guys either watching on YouTube or on Twitch and asking questions about different things and sharing your opinions on different things. Of course, this is the day that Infantry Gaming went out and had a phenomenal, absurdly good game, and we'll look into that in just a moment as well. So stick around, have fun, get your notebooks out, and ask any questions you might want, whether it's in the comments on YouTube or in Twitch chat, and I'll do my best to answer some of them. So, without further ado, let's get started with the first game of day 2. Plain, pretty straightforward. Alright, Eastern. We had this conversation in the last video on day 1. A lot is open over here. Southern Circle as well. So if you're looking anywhere up here, GX, E36, two teams that have not had the best start to the tournament. Western rotations, wrap on down. Western rotations, whether you go through Monte all the way around. You probably don't want to go through Monte, to be honest. Rotate around the edge. It seems like the safer and smarter thing to do, because as you can see here, everyone opted to go east round. So plenty of space towards the wait. Did VLG just get power grid without being contested? What? What? They got it. Now they don't have to run into GXA in San Martin. Huh. That's interesting. Well, I guess that's fortunate. VLG gets power grid uncontested. STS still over towards the east. COC, a fun little split loot there, but again, you react to the plane path and then you move accordingly. South around we go. Makes perfect sense. Let's zoom a little more. South around we go, and again, Los Leones is probably not going to be your go-to route. So even if you do make your way in from the circle here, you're probably still going to go south around. And if you do go into the city, it's going to be something along the lines of this, and then hurry the hell out of there again, or out here, or just around. You're most likely not going to go through the city like that. Let's take a look here and what happens. So a lot of space over towards the west side of the circle, obviously, with the plane being that far towards the east. I assume to see a lot of teams kind of try and pincer themselves south around here. Oh, north over, of course, but not through Pochinki itself. Or Los Leones itself, I should say. Teams wrapping around. VLG makes their way down. Ace comes down. SMG, they're already down here. 4 AM playing it slow. They're going to sit on church. Are they going to try and split something? Yes, they do. Nice two-way split for 4 AM. Should the circle come back towards the north. Sun Sister and SP almost running into each other. Didn't quite happen though. Infantry, decent split here to take control. Okay, so the circle come back towards 4 AM. I like this decision making on their part. You can see they're coming in 4 AM up here. They're coming in. They take church and they don't just settle with anything. They get church. Great. Now we have this. What more can we get? They see cars rotating across, which means there's most likely nothing going on over here. They go across. Wayless, perfect position to look around. Oh, wait. Waste? Oh, we first. However you want to say it. Now they split out. They can sit up here. They can scout around in multiple directions, giving the high ground position. They realize that this is open. Let's take that as well. The more you take early on, the better off you're going to be. Because then if you do get pushed or crashed by another team, back off, play one of the other positions. They have a 4-way split for 4 AM. I like it. Now they've abandoned the church. Makes more sense to sit up here. You can scout your way further forward. Also, it's easier to help your teammates when you're here rather than sitting as a solo back in the church area. Still a lot of teams that wrap south around are kind of confined in small splits. You have SMG with Janba in between them. TSG also sit all together. T1 in a 2-way split. You don't really have that much space down on the south side because of all the fields. Field, open hillside, field in front of the open hillside, big field over here, big field down here, fields down here. It means that you're kind of confined to the compounds. It's really hard to really make use of the open areas because there's most likely, if you're running around in the field, going to be someone either from a high ground position or from a position with cover, like a compound or something, that's going to be able to see you and also probably be in a better position than you to take a fight or to shoot at you. So not a lot of teams daring to play in the open at this point, which makes perfect sense, to be honest. COC playing on foot and crashing infantry. Okay, that's interesting. Happens on the edge of the circle. Again, big open field. Land went down. It's like, nope. You see here, he just comes down and goes, yeah, that's not gonna happen. Going back, maybe there's a crate there. I don't know. We don't see crates on the feed. Could have been that there was a crate there, or maybe he came over to try and help Small, but Small was like, no, I'm fine, guys, I'm fine. I'm coming back up the hill. So they go up. They hear the engagement with Chamba and LVG. I think they consider going down, but it's a very steep hill, so it's a little difficult to push down and take the engagement down there. No. It's gonna be Hypuck. He's gonna be casting tonight. $4 a.m. Tries to control enters. The thing is, because they don't get this fight finished, it means that they have to focus on this, which means if another team starts crashing in, it could have been SMG, could have been LVG, could have been VLG, could have been Ace or GX, whatever you want to call them. They're going to find themselves in a really tough spot. So they need to either get the hell out of the compound, which is going to be hard, or finish the fight. Because as you can see now, they're forced to fight on two fronts. Pignan tries to come out and help. He goes down as well. Because they haven't dealt with Entis, they get screwed by it. Now they're caught two solo players in between two teams. So while they had a really good position before, because they weren't forcing the fight with Enters, because they opted to play passive, they end up getting killed because of it. That was a weird explanation, but I think it makes sense. TSG, plenty of space in the north. I mean, again, you can't really do anything to play in the open. You can play on the north side of it, or the east, northeast, and up here. But the whole field they have vision of, and it's practically impossible to sit in the open anywhere here, unless if you're like proning, and then you're not really a threat to a team in a compound anyway. Circle, yoink, up towards the northeast we go. A lot of teams from down south would probably want to make a rotation in that direction. LVG crossing over into the dip. VLG reacting play, they take their spot. And then they sit and look for a spot for them to go themselves. There's a fight going on in the compound. VLG might want to opt to fight that. Nope. They cross over. Oof. Was that too early? No. Timing is actually pretty decent. I mean, okay, so they see LVG leave. They hear the engagement going on down here. And VLG thinks, okay, if we can just come up here, we can contain. The only thing is, if there's people here, or people up north, playing this spot is going to be really dangerous. Because yes, you can sit from this position in theory and shoot across the road, but as soon as you peek over the road, you're also going to be high enough up that anyone else sitting here can shoot at you. So it's going to be pretty tricky to put yourself to play from that position, and therefore they also die. They push too early. The thing is, they couldn't really have pushed later. It's just that position was never going to be good in this particular situation where the teams around you were positioned as they were. So a tricky situation for LVG to play. They made an attempt of playing a position in which, I mean, had COC not been up here, they could probably have stayed down there and not been punished because of it. But they they made a play that could have worked in many other situations, but did not really work in this particular one. T1 chilling in the center. TSG triumphant zone up towards the north. They're going to try and clear out Sun Sister, but they don't have to because COCing is doing it for them. Not too much to say here. I mean, it's an open field fight for the most of it, and you have teams with the benefit of compounds, and then because the hillside is still in to some extent, you cannot really play the field yet. And because the compounds are in, but you just cannot really play this field as long as any of the compounds are in. T1 still in. You forced to take the crash. Polity is playing on a hay bell. This is a very slow-paced ending. I mean, it's gonna be anyway, because there's just not a whole lot you can do. Circle's closing in. Small gonna make his way forward. Enters, trying to clear the edge so that whenever this fight comes to an end, they have full control, but it didn't really work the way that they wanted to. It's a smart play. There are 3 players alive. They know there's a lot going on in the compound. And my guess is that they go, okay, guys, so if we can clear the field, if we can make sure that we have control of everything out here, and we make sure to do this while this fight is going on down here, then by the time this fight comes to an end, we can just sit behind, whether it's a tractor or hay bale or whatever it is, and kind of hold them. So if the circle comes to us, then they will be screwed. It's the idea works great in theory, right? So what they do is that once this fight pops, they start running north around. They see COC push in, and then they realize, okay, we got to make a play here. So they run up, and they start trying to clear out. And it doesn't work. They go up, they find one, and all of a sudden Indigo has to just play on his own. And kind of just await. Because had they been up here with 3, let's say XS would have died as well. There would have been 3 players sitting in whatever split. They would have had the dot, first of all. And they would have had to leave. It doesn't happen though. XS, on the other hand, gets the dot. 3 solos left alive. 1 goes down, and oh my god, he died. XS has just been really unlucky in what we've seen from him so far in the tournament. While he goes down, Rex plays it nice. A 1v1 followed by another 1v1 instantly after. Smart play on his part, wins the game. And T1 gets themselves a 4-kill win. It was a pretty quiet game for them. They had to send a compound for the majority of it, with only 2 players alive. So, quiet game, but still a 14-point game, nonetheless. That ends up working in their favor. And now to the game that everyone has been talking about. Everyone has been completely and utterly hyped for. Let's see what happened on day 2, game 2. The plane is gone. We'll analyze this game just like we would any other match. Let's see what happens. We start here with a 4-man fight inside church. Chumacera is free. This is free. But 4 people, or 8 people I should say, figure out that it's the smartest thing in the universe to go and fight there. And also, last game we said, oh, look at this. VLG have gotten Power Grid for themselves. Sun Sister is coming back to try and fight them again, for reasons unknown to me. Let's see here. What did Sun Sister do? Let's go back real quick. Last game, Sun Sister ended up going to the north. This was a plain path that allowed for Sun Sister to fight in Power Grid, but they opted to go north instead. And now, with a similar plain path, they go there again. I don't understand it, but either way, that happened. Infantry, they find 4 kills early on in a cluster fight with Enters. It could have gone either way. Could very easily have been Enters winning that one. Doesn't happen. Infantry wins it. They get themselves 4 kills. This happens again. And this time around, at least for the likes of GX, Ace, and other teams, VLG is actually staying to fight it. Because now they're like, you know what, you gave it to us last game. That means that this is ours. You have to back off here, Sun Sister. They're gonna stay and try and see if they can take the fight to them. The circle is as center as you could expect. It's pretty straightforward rotation-wise. There's not really too much. I mean, you do have this area. I think this is probably the area on Miramar that I've drawn up the most times. You want to be on the correct side of this ridge or this mountain line by the time the circle pops. That decides whether it's going over here or over here. So let's see how that's gonna work out. COC, they wrap up over the top. They realize GX is there. They go, oh, well, I guess we're playing that anyway. So they wrap around the other side. Infantry push in from the south. They're just chilling on the edge, doing their infantry thing. Infantry, as we talked about in the previous video, infantry is probably what you could call the Asian, or the Chinese, I should say, equivalent to Navi in terms of playstyle, if you're EU viewer watching this. They play passive early game. They never really fight people early on, unless if they get contested. They will take a fight to you if you take a fight to them. Like, they'll fight you. But if everything goes the way that infantry wants it to, they just do their own thing in the early game, with nothing massive really going on. So they're gonna do their wide split, try and figure out where they should go next circle. New circle pops, up north we go, and all of a sudden, as you can see, all these teams now probably finding themselves on the wrong side of this mountain line. And the reason I'm talking about it is that whenever you have to cross, there's only really 2 or 3 spots you can get up with a car. That is here, of course on the other side you can get up pretty easily. But when you're coming from the east or the southeast, if you want to get on the other side, you either have to go up here, or maybe if you have a bike, it's a little easier to maneuver your way through. You can go up there, or you have to go into the city. Well, all around Hacienda. So it's very limited in terms of what you can do to get up. And also you're driving uphill, which means you're not driving that fast. You're a pretty easy target. And if there's a team sitting up the hill or on the other side for that sake shooting at you, you're going to have a tough time. So you want to be clear of this rotation. Like, you want to be clear of having to maneuver through this before too many people start going into this area of the map. So the circle goes north. A lot of teams are trying to, as you can see, wrap around. No one really wants to go through here. Either you go south around, or you try and maneuver your way far north around. You can see how many teams are actually up here. All of them are coming over the top, right? They're all coming up here or over here. TSG are rotating in slow, going in with the circle, just trying to secure some space, and not really stressing too much. We haven't seen the next circle yet. Power grid is open. There's some space to maneuver around over here, but it's a pretty open hillside, so you're also a pretty easy target. Everything right now is pretty locked up, other than the compounds up here and power grid. Everything else is pretty much taken, and if you make the line through the middle like we've done before, there's a pretty decent split. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-ish teams on one side. So it's not like it's one of those where we have 3 teams on one side and a billion teams on the other. But if we scoot it a little further to the left and we exclude the San Martin teams, we only have 2 teams over here. Like, this whole area, we only have 2 teams in. And if we make that same circle on the east side of the circle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So while San Martin on its own can house many teams, we have 2 teams here. Let's draw it in the blue so it's easier to see. 2 teams over here, 9 teams over here. So it's pretty easy to see where the pressure is coming in from. And keep this in mind, because infantry at this point have 2 kills, right? Yes, infantry have 2 kills. They've killed Ensis. Oh, 4 kills, I should say. 4 kills, sorry. Infantry are gonna get another 20 kills this game. How does that happen when everyone is so far away? You would think that when you see a circle like this, that there's gonna be so much cluster fighting going on over here. Like, how is infantry, the team that's chilling, that they're just leaning back and super duper chilling? How are they gonna have any peace in what's gonna happen? The thing is, when this circle pops and San Martin becomes the center, what do you do here? Do you chill on the hillside, looking into the city? Do you go down here? Do you go to plane crash, knowing that there's a team there? You also know for a fact that there's players in between you, so Longskirts are kind of on his own right now. Like, what do you do here if you're infantry gaming? Let's see what they do end up doing. You can play the compounds on the north side. They wrap around. So first they take a fight, 4v4 in church, and they end up winning that. Then they rotate past a full 4-man team get shot at, but fortunately don't get killed, and get themselves into a new position. Get shot at again and again, and stay alive. So they're still, as I said, like Navi, playing chill on the edge, not in a hurry to go anywhere. And why do they go north around like this? Because they know the circle is going to shift away from that. The circle shifts away from this and that and that and this. The circle shifts away from these spots. So they know it's going to go either north or northeast, which is why they're so committed to going over this way, because had it been another way, they could have scouted forward and done something like that, right? But they don't want to go through an area like that. So they wrap around the back. They know this is going to be index circle to some extent. And if it isn't, then it's like, then they have to go over the other way. Find one kill there. So solo from STS caught out in the open. Unfortunate for him. Then we look further forward. Fights starting to escalate in the city. I mean, that's going to happen. When you have this many people alive in a city, they will run into each other. There's so much, like, so many players per square meter compared to, like, on the east side compared to the west side of the map right now. With San Martin and all. Circle goes north. As we said, it's going to shift away from where Savior is. Everyone should know this. T1, like, nope. Let's go. As soon as the circle pops, the Mirado just goes full speed. Let's go. Where are you going, Starlord? Rex is behind him. Rex dies. Acker dies. Or Adder dies. Helen and Starlord are the only ones that make it. I like the play. It's a good commitment. Unfortunately, they were a little too slow. And you're like, but we couldn't have been faster. And I'm like, no. I mean, you rotated as fast as you possibly could. It's just too dangerous. I mean, you will more often than not lose players trying to drive through a city in phase 5 from the other side of the circle. So it's a ballsy play, it's a daring play, but it's also a pretty suicidal play. And they end up losing 2 players because of it. So T1 come up with 2 to the dip. SMG, full speed behind them. They see that there are only 2 players alive. They killed one of them and they crash in, take the fight to them, and they get eliminated. Rather impressive hold. I believe Starlord kills 2 and Helen kills 1, and then Xiao Yang comes in and gets the last one. So great hold. COC comes up right after. They go, oh, I guess if SMG failed, we should try and do the same thing. 1, 2, 3. No, they don't all die. But a lot of damage has been done already that allows for infantry to get a pretty, not easy fight, but all of a sudden it's a 4v1, right? So, and he bails. The entire, oh, let's get out of San Martin situation. It becomes, San Martin is just a hellhole to leave. Because either you run up this zigzag road to the compound, you drive north around, because remember these compounds ain't here anymore. You drive north around, because you cannot really push up on foot on these hills, they're really steep. I mean, you can, but you're going to be super exposed to anyone sitting on the other side, and you're going to get killed when doing so, or the team that is sitting up here. So trying to leave San Martin is just, I will say most times, or most often, only one team gets out of their life. Sometimes 2 teams get out of their life. More than that, that is very rare. Very rare. Because by the time you're in a situation where you have to leave the city, other teams will already have set up shop in spots that counter you being able to leave. So, GX run each other over, and they try and get away. They manage to get up to the side of the plane crash compound. Infantry still chilling on the edge. Again, doing their chill on the edge things. Navi crash forward. Try to go from one side to the other. Dangerous and ballsy play, but they know that SP was fighting earlier. I'm doing it for all regions, Kofi. All regions. Down south we go. Infantry are out, but I mean, this is a very simple. When we think about it, this is a really, really similar game to the one that they played on the. This is a very similar game to the one that Tianba was playing on the east side over south of Impala, where they just played slow on the edge, and kind of maneuver their way through like that. A very Navi style way of playing. Constantly just clearing edges and containing. Clearing edges and containing. They don't want to have neighbors. They want the space. So they go out, they clear them, they play back again. They go out, they clear them, they play back again. 9 falls, Longsker is immediately there to help, comes down, gets a kill. And while this is happening, you would think, oh, okay, so everything else is happening in here. How did I predict how the circle would move? This one? It's pretty simple. All mountains that have these bubbly shapes. Bubbly, bubbly, bubbly when you look at the map, right? And these shapes. Bubbly. And bubbly. And bubbly. Bubbly. And bubbly. You know they're everywhere. I'm just finding some random examples. Bubbly. 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 I think you get what I'm talking about. All these places, whenever we hit phase 4, which is where we normally shift away from water, these spots on the map, the game counts them as water. If we have a circle, let's draw the blue circle up like this. If you have a circle that looks like this, then you know that phase 4, the sizes are completely wrong here, but it's just to make an example. Let's say if phase 4 is this big. Then you go, okay, where can we fit in this circle where it doesn't touch any of the red areas? And that's essentially only up here. Because if you go down here, it would be too big. So some of it would be in down there or up there. Again, this is completely out of proportion. It's just to make an example. So it would only be up here. Therefore, we know the only place on the map where you can fit in the circle without it touching any of the bubbly places is there. Therefore, the circle has to go there. So whenever we look here and we go bubbly, 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 zoom in, find some more. There aren't any more there. There aren't any more there. There aren't any more there. And we then see where the circle goes. You go, okay, where can the circle go? Where can the circle fit in where it doesn't touch any of these areas? It could go over there, or it could go over there. Because it cannot touch any of the red spots. So it could have been further north. Like it could have probably been up here. Something like that as well. But yeah. That's how it works. And that's, to me, I think, and many other people think, that that is really unfortunate. It is really sad that that is the way that it works. Because knowing where circles are going before they actually go, I think is not good for the game. Either way, that was the explanation on that. Everyone gets out of the city, and as I was talking about before, infantry clears out LVG, and normally you'd think that everyone else was fighting in the meantime, but that's not really the case. Look at this. You have a team that's playing pretty chill on the cliffside. You have a team that's playing one side of the compound, team that's playing the other side of the compound, and a solo. That's all that's happening. None of these 4 teams are really forced to take fights right now. They're all just waiting for infantry to push forward. At this point, infantry has 7, 10, 16 kills. Because they have cleared out the 4 teams early. Then they push in. I think at this point they only have 4 kills, right? Okay, so now they have 5 because they killed a solo earlier. So they have 5 kills. Then this whole thing happens. They get a few more. And then COC comes in and feeds them and they get more. Then GX comes up. They don't get any of that. But then there's a fight that happens up here. And they get to third party that. Nom nom nom. More kills. Then they push forward. A fight happens. They get to third party that. Nom nom nom. And then this fight happens. They get to third party that. Nom nom nom. Fight. And all of a sudden, they've got themselves 16 kills. Now they have to push into the circle, which is not necessarily going to be all that easy. And all these teams don't really have to fight one another. Because all they need to really worry about is trying to hold out infantry gaming. Infantry goes into the dip. And now they're going up against probably one of the weakest teams in the lobby, VLG. One gets knocked by 4 a.m. That's really fortunate because he goes to try and get the res. He ends up getting flushed. Infantry finds him. Sprints on forward. There you are. Gets the kill. Gets the res back up. At this point, I think I've seen 6 or 7 infantry knocks. Like knocks on infantry players. So not only do they finish fights, like they find fights and finish them fast, but they also are really, really good at always getting their teammates back on their feet. And while all this is going on, these two teams opt to take the fight with one another, and it couldn't be better for infantry. All they have to do is lean back, play out on the edge, have these two teams fight in the middle, and just wait for whoever stays alive to come outside. This could not be any better for infantry. Had it been one 4-man team that had to push out, it would have been a whole other story. But because there's 2 weakened teams now who were fighting each other before, all they have to do now is just wait, log it down, get the kills. And that's how you get yourself a 24 kill game. And it could have all, their 34 points in one game, all starts with them hot dropping as 4 against Entis in church. And that's one of the things that are so fun to me, because while we go on paper, it's a really good game by infantry, right? When we get 24 kills, oh my fucking god, that's insane. They're like, if Entis and infantry took this fight in church 20 times, I think there's one scenario. There's one time in out of those 20, maybe not even one time out of those 20 where infantry survives with all 4 players up. That just doesn't happen. And had they only been 3, let's say they lose 1 player here. Had they only been 3 alive, having this split, that would probably never have happened. That would never have happened had there only been 3. So it's one of those, while the points are amazing, and it's an impressive performance, there are so many things that could have and should have gone against them that just never did. It's pretty wild. It's kind of like the it's just, you know, like sometimes all the stars align and it works out for you. And for infantry, it sure as hell did. I mean, it's really impressive. It is extremely impressive. But holy moly, were there many times where that should have, I'm not saying could have, but should have been prevented. But it all comes down to, I don't speak Chinese and I haven't heard their comms, but good communication, being able to rest one another in the heat of the moment, and also being able to execute and finish fights fast. You see, I mean, infantry never stall a fight. That's one of the things that are impressive. They never end up in a situation where they go, oh, this took so long, now we're gonna die because shit went sideways. If they feel like, okay, we're not gonna be able to win this fight right now, they just back off. What do you mean Korean? Infantry is a Chinese team. If infantry can't win a fight, they just back off. Like, they just go, okay, no, it's not worth it. We're not going to take that fight. And then they go do something else. Instead of saying, oh, but maybe we can win, or maybe we can win, and fire a few shots, and then end up losing time and losing utility. Like, they're very smart about it. I mean, even when they don't win, even when they feel like they can't do anything, they just leave. They do something else. And other teams, if they're in a fight where they could win, but there's also a big chance that they don't, they try to force it and they end up dying, or they kind of disengage, but not really. Scofie, I don't think it's up for discussion. Infantry gaming. Chinese PUBG esports club. That's, I guess I can't. No worries. No, that's okay. That's okay. there's the link to them if you wanna go see that. But yeah, it's an impressive game by Infantry. By all means, it's very impressive. And to be honest, I mean, they position themselves. That's what I like about Infantry in particular. They always position themselves in spots or in areas where there's a chance they can get these type games. You know what I mean? They set themselves up for potential big games. It doesn't always happen. Like, they don't always get wins with 20 kills, obviously, but they position themselves in spots where there's a chance that they could. Them playing North here, they know everyone's gonna try and avoid San Martin. They will be wrapping around. They will come to us. All we have to do is lean back and wait, and then you will have that fight with an advantage going your way. So they know. They play this position because they know that's what's gonna happen. So they're not being dumb about it. It's not just random. They put themselves up for success with how and where they play. So smart play on their part for sure. That was game 2 though. Again, the thing is, I mean, with analysis, doing analysis on a map stream like we are in these type videos, it's really hard to go into, because there's probably a lot of the fights that we saw them take that we could have done a lot of in-depth, like close quarter combat analysis on, but we don't have the POVs of all the players, and then it's gonna be a little difficult to get like a proper idea of how the fights themselves go down. But now we got like the grand picture of how their 24 kill game came to be. A lot of really, really successful third partying, and a very lucky, because as good as you can be as a player, winning a let's just land on guns and shoot each other hot drop is luck when it's between two very good teams. Do you get their gun? Does it even register that you're reloading it? There's a lot of things that goes on, which very often has a lot to do with one team getting luckier than another. So let's see. Boyam and VLG are having fun. Who would have thought? Wait, oops, I have to do this, or else it fucks up. There you go. 4am and VLG are having fun. Who would have thought? GX are like, nope, we've seen that before. Let's just go loot somewhere else. I like it. They land around here, and then they go like, nah, let's just take cars and leave. Let's just go over to shelter. Like, we've been there before. Let's just avoid this whole thing. Which makes good sense. But the plane was pretty western, which means that obviously there's going to be a lot of space out here, and then you have a somewhat eastern circle. I love these. I mean, it's still pretty center, but still somewhat eastern. Shelter's going to be open, mansion open, everything over here, of course, it's going to be open. And I like how infantry adapts. Like, normally they would be looting something like this, but they come parachuting in, and then they see no one's in front of them. Bowling, long script both gets vehicles. And they see, well, there's no one over here. We might as well just, now that the circle pops, why settle with looting this if we can just go and take this when it's not taken? Like, even though it's not our usual loot spot, in this particular game, in this particular circle, it's a better spot than what we normally use. And it's open. Some teams are like, oh, but no, I always loot this specific route from building to building to building to building. And even though there's technically something better in the particular game available, they're still up to go do something else, which sometimes can be fine, but for the most part, you might as well include your looting phase in your like phase 1 rotation. Similar, like down on the south side. No, infantry never loots up here. They oftentimes go a little further down towards the southwest. But they can split. Like, again, they're very adaptive to what's available. And if they see something is open and it's a better position in the circle, then might as well just go take that. Makes pretty good sense. There are just some teams that are really it's not arrogant is the wrong word. Very locked up with only wanting to loot their spots. We're having a 3-team fight here. Afrika, Freaks, and GEX are having fun. Here comes COC. Yes, 3 teams fighting over a compound in phase 1. Is SP gonna join that fight as well? For the memes? No. Thank God. That would have been pretty dumb. Let's see. New circle pops. Centers up on Potato. I like this split with T1. Adder might want to get the hell out of there, though, because LVG is coming in. So find your car. Get out. Oh, now it's too late. Yep, now he's going to get caught. Teammates are coming to help. and now you're stuck here. Like, either you take the fight to the other team, or you're just gonna be stuck with one another, and none of you can ever leave. Better luck next time, yeah. Well, a bit of both, I guess, Agoroth. A bit of both. Better luck next time. Normally don't get to loot, so you know they normally die before that happens. Element 36, gonna rotate back to one another. Sylphia is fine. Wait, what is going on up here? COC and it. What? They just hurt them down here. And then you push. New circle pups. COC drives one step further in. They get 2. Okay, so they get 2 and they want to find the last 2. That makes sense. Because it's like on their path further inside the circle. They take a 4v2. That makes good sense, I guess. Trying to get the final 2 kills. I was just thinking that they were taking a 4v4 fight inside the compound. I was like, why would you do that? But this does make sense to some extent. Especially if they get all the kills. But they're spending a lot of time clearing out 2 players. New circle pops at centers on the field. And double barns. Pochinki still completely open and available. Now you have the, what do you call it? The trenches out in front of Pochinki as well that are somewhat viable. I think you would rather want to play down here if you either have control of one of the barns or you have control somewhere else. Playing this alone is really difficult because there's so many elevated positions where people can see you. I mean, even the wizard tower can be dangerous to look up towards. So this is a dangerous spot to sit in if you don't have some sort of control around. You can see Son Yang, Under, Kale, they're all around here. Pretty nice split, actually. I like it. As long as you're not exposed to any of these 2. I should roll them in like that. Infantry, again, playing edge, sweeping, clearing as they please, spreading out, taking control, doing their infantry things. 4 AM, they've been fighting in here the entire game, and then... so pointless. And they end up dying. I would assume Lu is about to die. T1 and LVG still having fun. Again, as you can see, it's difficult to play this position without any control outside. But now they get... Oh, okay, so they actually pushed in. I didn't even notice that. So GSG pushes in. Ensis is forced to go full commit and try and hold off. Peng is there. Does he win it? No. Ooh, a little luck comes in. A little bit of help from the north. He goes down. It's really, again, these type games are... It's a lot of close quarter engagements, you know? So it gets a little tricky to do analysis of on a map size perspective. But essentially you have these 2 areas with the exception, of course, of this and the wizard tower. These 2 areas are pretty much unplayable. So you're either forcing teams to go into Pochinki, which a lot of teams are doing, or to play the hill, like the forest side around the around the field. Pochinki is still gonna be in. What does infantry do on this? You know there's 2 teams sitting down here. What does infantry do in this situation? I would think either they crash here because they have scouted and seen there's only one guy moving around, or I don't even know. What's the alternative? Try and get to the wizard? Or do they just play on foot? They could just stay on foot and play above, I guess. They still have the vehicle, so they can move next circle if they have to. Yeah, that's a wizard rotation. Infantry. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Ah, you can't drive through it with Ensis in there. They know they're down there too. That's so horrible. What do you do? Crash. Yep, there's not really anything else you can do. Not really. I mean, the thing is, if they get the kills, which they do, then all of a sudden you have space to play from. And if the next circle doesn't, and we're already down to 6 teams left alive, right? If the next circle keeps them in, that's top 3 guaranteed. Because everyone is playing edge right now, right? So it's all about praying for the next hard shift in this situation, which they don't get. And that means they probably die. Because they're still in. So they'll have eyes on them. And infantry can't really do anything to force LVG and Tianba to fight each other. Or Tianba to T1 to fight each other. Yeah, they die. They can't really do anything to force them to take the fight when they are both inside the circle still. Fights escalate on the edge in the trench or in the gutter area. And all of a sudden, oh, Tianba, you gotta come up and look out. Gotta start looking out. Because whenever these guys start leaving, that's kills just waiting to come your way. But I guess SP, they were kind of containing them on the on them trying to leave. SP spread out. 3 guys pushing one way, 1 playing contain on the other side. I like it, but Kim Goni isn't playing contain, he's pushing. 10 players alive, and you have a 4-man team up. They get Rex. That is unfortunate. I guess that's the way to put it. Just an unfortunate engagement. I think... I mean, now we don't know what their situation is individually. Do they still have helmets and vests on? Or have they been knocked 15 times? Or do they have nades? Do they have smokes? But I think... I would have thought, at least, I should say. SP to be in a better position. But there's a little bit of rock down here, I believe. And they had their vehicles as well that they tried to bring out. So, tough one. But interesting end game anyway. Obviously, LVG wasn't going to win that game, but a good one regardless. Now, the final game. Let's make sure the text is right. Final game of day 2 of the Asian PCS2 League. PCS2 League. That's the new name for it. Circle, plane is west. Circle is... also west, who would have thought? I want PUBG to add some more dips. That'd be nice soon, as long as there's no one on potato. Because then you're just gonna screwed if you're sitting in there. Like, if you're in this field, and there's a team sitting up here in the doghouses, you're completely doomed. Let's see. Plane was on the west side. It went south to north. Something like that. A little more angled. Okay, sorry. Something like that. And the circle goes to the west, which means you're probably not going to drive out to shelter this time around. Please tell me they're not actually... Oh my god. Why? What is VLG's deal in this tournament? VLG has played a total of 8 games at this point, within which they have hot dropped people 6 times and never won. Is it like a Korea versus China hate dispute, or what is going on here? I just don't understand it. Like, what's the purpose? What's the point of doing it? Every single game. They could have just landed down here, taken cars and driven around them. Instead, they hot drop them every single time. I don't understand it. Freak of Freaks, they go out towards the east to get looted up quickly, get rotated back on in. TSG and Ensis, they're gonna be in fine positions down by Quarry and Prim. Sun Sister up towards the north, pretty straightforward for them to rotate down. I mean, they know that everyone's gonna be rotating prior or before them anyway, so they can just kind of come in behind and make their way on down. Maybe go over Everest to scout further forward towards the southeast or southwest, I should say. 4 AM, kill VLG. Who would have thought? And they go back to apartments to get looted. They don't have any cars yet, I believe. So they're gonna be a little slow on the rotation. And the thing is, it screws up 4 AM completely. I mean, 4 AM could also just back off. That's the thing. I mean, there's 2 sides to the coin. Oh, it's 2 teams making poor decisions. One team continues to fight a fight they continue to lose, and 4 AM continue to, I mean, okay, they do get 4 points. That's of course something, but they continue to be really, really screwed on rotations and loot because they have to spend the entire early game on fights, you know. Heading into the field. Okay, this is a tricky circle because, I mean, as you know, all of you probably know this, but you have the forest that goes all the way through. This whole part down here is really flat and open, so you cannot really play this at all. And then if you have teams sitting on both sides, it becomes kind of a Star Wars episode 4, I guess, New Hope type thing, where you have to make your way through, dodge all the trees, and make your way in without getting killed. And there's not really anywhere else you can enter it from, unless if you go all the way down to the beach and wrap around that way. So for all the teams that are trying to maneuver in from the east, which, fortunately now, is not that many, it's a pretty difficult rotation to make, even though it doesn't look that complicated because there's so much space. It's a pretty tricky rotation to successfully make. They're not taking this. Oh, we're rotating underneath instead. Makes sense. And now they all crash swamp. Sonic's and Liquid all over again. Yeah, I guess to some extent. And then this happens. So when they finally do. Okay, so LVG wanted to go take a position, maybe around Quarry, maybe wrap around. One guy starts shooting. And then they end up crashing into the team they were chasing. Infantry goes, a third party, and they cross the road. I'm not too surprised, and they get 3 kills. Infantry has been fed so many kills on third parties. They're really playing it. Like, their reaction time is so damn good. And their ability to find themselves in areas of the map where they can get those kills are also, like, it's really impressive to see. And Shrimsy, thank you so much for the host. I don't have any alerts on, but thank you so much for the host. I didn't see it before. Sorry. But infantry's ability to third party, like they just always seem to put themselves in a position where they're never in the what do you say? It's not like the heat area, but they're never in the bottleneck cluster areas, but they're next to them so that they have a chance to third party. Like them sitting on the south side hill at this point early. They do it to scout, obviously, because they're rotating underneath, but they also see Xianyang. So they go up here, they wait, they see this whole thing unfold, and they go, ooh, how nice, a fight is going on, let's third party. I would like to see, in terms of infantry, let's see. Oh, sorry. Infantry has, at this point in the tournament, 24, 35, 37, 40, 46, 49, 57 kills in 8 games. So they average 7 kills per game. That's pretty damn decent. They average 7 kills per game. I would like to know how many of those kills come from third-party engagements. I mean, it's not like it's the only thing they do, because they do have a lot of engagements that go on where they are like face up with another team, or face front going up against another team. But a lot of their engagements start from them being really wise, like really, really wise about timing their third parties right. And I think it's really difficult to do. I mean, it's difficult to do as a whole. And to be able to do it so many times over the course of one tournament is even harder. So really impressive that that they have so much success with it. I know. I mean, it's only been 2 days in the tournament, so they could fail, but we haven't really seen that happen in this tournament yet. It's pretty impressive. SDS want to make sure to maintain control of the. I like how they also go back. Like they see them come across. E36, they go up, they take the fight to them, they back off immediately. They go, rather give they don't know if it's 3 or 4 people alive on T1. So back off, give them the space they want, but make sure that Sunsister can't go over and take your spot over here. Pretty smart play on their part. Just try and, even though you're only 2, get some presence in and force T1 to at least consider trying to rotate somewhere else. Because they might not know for a fact that SDS only has 2 players left alive. So force T1 to consider maybe rotating all the way around the back, or go over and play the cat hill or something like that. and stay alive for a little while longer. Kind of puffer fish yourself up, you know, like, oh, we are 4 people. We're such a big, dangerous teams. Go away if you want to stay alive. When they're in fact just 2 guys up. Pretty smart to play that way in this particular situation. And then we have the new, because it's not new, but we haven't, at least in terms of tournaments I've been part of broadcasting, haven't had that many north. Like, there's been a lot of endings in the forest and like the south side of Quarry, but we haven't had that much happen up here. And I've been kind of curious to find out how much impact these new compounds, just like in general the new overlay, like layout of Quarry, will have on Swarm area. Will the fact that there are houses here now completely prevent anyone from playing out here? I feel like it is. Like, that's the impact it has had. I just haven't seen enough engagements since we went to Erangel Remastered around this area to really have an opinion on it. And you see, it worked out for them. STS, they forced T1 to rotate around. Smart play. By showing some more presence, they made them go the other way. Smart play on their part, and they get themselves a spot in the circle. Not a good spot, but you would rather sit here alone than sitting here with a full 4-man team. T1 doing Star-Lord things, trying to crash center. SP comes over the top, trying to hold out anybody on the edge here. Pretty, again, straightforward decision making on their part. And then we have a circle split between Quarry and the forest. Where do we want this one to go? Still 33 players alive. Let's see. It goes half-half. Why not? The south side of this is not unplayable, but it's really hard to play when you have a team like TSG sitting up on the other side, because there's minimal cover. And the trees, I mean, you guys probably know it from knowing the map, but the trees are really tall, and you don't really have leaves on them or branches on them before a certain height. So it's really hard to really gain proper cover in... I mean, other than the little valley point, there's like this is really hard to play, which means it's also really hard to traverse through. So if you want to make any movements, it has to be around or around. And when there's a player sitting or a team sitting in the compound down south, it pretty much cuts off your chance to go from one side to another of the red line here. So if you're over here on your Jianba, or if you're over here on your COC, you're most likely going to be forced to stick to where you are. Because either you have to try and take the fight to TSG, which is practically impossible with them being up on Quarry, or you have to take the fight to infantry. The only way to rotate north around is to know that it's TSG who's up there, and to hope or to wait for them to maybe be forced into a fight with whoever ends up winning that engagement, or if SMG opts to take the fight to them. Like, you need to have them be occupied doing something else in order to make that move forward. Let's see what COC... I mean, COC is a pretty passive team overall anyway, so we'll see what they do. EJ, straight into the middle of the opposing team. That's unfortunate. Shadow and Hansia rotating on their own. And as you can see, fight ensues up here. Chiama goes, well, they're doing something else. Let's go. And all they needed was for Shan to start shooting at one guy, have Ping come up and help him for 1 split second, and that allowed for them to push forward. Again, doesn't mean that they're in a great position, but that was their whole. Like, that was their little 5-7 second gap that they could use, and they took advantage of it. Fights escalate again. Nice rotations by Ansi and Shadow, to be honest. Pretty smart plays by them. SMG tries to clear out the Quarry. 4am is down here. They get the wipes on them. Oops, sorry. Smart play on their part. To just I mean, smart play. It's really limited what you can really do in that situation. I am a little surprised, though, that SMG opted to not just push up this direction. There's enough cover, I would think. Because having been where they were for such a long time, they should know that there's 1, maybe 2 players here. And if you're a 4-man team, that should be your go-to. Because once you're up on the plateau, these guys can't see you, and these guys can only see you like through the top of the leaves, which means they won't have that much vision. That's a little surprising to me, honestly, that SMG opts to push this way rather than just push forward up here. Because they know that TSG is going to be preoccupied doing other stuff. Sextrum, that's not my decision to make. Sorry, bro. I don't even think I'm a mod on the PUBG channel. I'm just a VIP. I don't think VIPs have authority to ban and unban people. COC, they waited, and they waited for way too long, and then they died because they were hesitating too much, like we've seen them do many times before. Freak of Freaks end up going down. This should be a TSG win. I don't see how this is not a TSG win. Boy, to be honest, made much more of this game than I thought they were going to be able to. How many kills did they have at this point? 7 kills. Only 2 players left. Given that they spent the entire early game fighting off VLG in an area of the map that they should never be fighting for, and they kind of came off to a slow start because of that, then it's pretty impressive that they find themselves a second place. Not bad. TSG, good positioning by them as well. They were in this area of the map early on, but they rotated wisely. I mean, they landed on loot quarry, and the game ended in quarry. So again, sometimes you get those games where everything just kind of goes your way, but it's what you do with it, right? Because by the time we get, unless if it's one of those one compound in, like on Miramar, outside of Picardo or something, one compound in the middle and there's nothing else around. Unless if it's one of those where it's like you really are bad if you don't win them. I mean, for a pro team. Then I would say by the time we hit phase 5, it's anyone's game. If it's an area like this, I mean, any team can win this. Not really, but more often than not, it's pretty open for multiple teams to have a chance here. So yes, they get the center circles, but it's also having to go and rush your teammate, having to maintain control. I mean, Shandian is pretty much containing everything on his own here. 911 is doing the exact same thing over here. So smart plays. Yeah, exactly. Similar to those areas of the map. It's impressive, even though it seems like a free win. When the circles keep going their way, there's still so much you have to do in terms of making sure you have info and awareness of where all your opponents are, and also making really smart plays accordingly. So that does get tricky, even though it doesn't seem all that complicated. So let's see the individual player stats. Longsker has done 4,100 damage so far. That's pretty decent. That is pretty decent. Who's the closest one to him in damage? 2.8. That'd be it, right? So the player who's the closest to him is 911 from TSG, and he's over 1,300 damage behind. That is, that's pretty nuts, not gonna lie. The thing is, he only has 23 kills. That's what's funny about it, right? Because if you look at it, I mean, you have 19 kills Lorena, and he's just over half the damage, but he's only 4 kills behind. So Longsker is just like tagging. He's kind of like the, I guess, the Uber or the Orange, like the guy that just tags everyone. He tags everyone all the time. Tons of damage, but not really that many kills. Like his damage to kill ratio is not that good, if you look at it. Of course, you'd rather have high damage and less kills than low damage and no kills. But it's a whole hell of a lot of damage, considering the amount of kills. Pretty impressive. Where the most other people are somewhat close to, like, damage to kill. A little off. This one also 2,800 and only 13 kills. That's pretty impressive. That's PUBG these days. I feel like that's the meta. Shoot at everything. I mean, it makes perfect sense. I don't even know if you can really call that a meta, to be honest. But it's just, that's kind of how competitive PUBG works. Shoot at everything, unless if you're like a solo left alive, because there's no reason not to. You have absurd amounts of ammo, always. Could it be fun if you were to play PUBG kind of like Counter-Strike, where you had a set, like you never had to loot ammo, but when you get your gun, you have a set amount of ammo that have to last you the whole game. Then you could still loot the opponents, of course. But you could never have more, like in your gun, you could never have more than 2 magazines or something. Then you would have to go and loot someone to get magazines again. That would completely change up how the game was played, but I think that would be pretty fun. Either way,
for those of you guys watching on YouTube, that was it for day 2 of PCS for Asia. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a good